Swimming facilities are typically divided into zones of surveillance. The supervisor or facility manager establishes and posts these zones to provide the best visual coverage of patrons. Your zone can change based on the number of people in the zone, the type or variety of activities going on, and the environmental conditions affecting visibility. When establishing coverage, supervisors or managers must ensure that all areas of the water from the bottom through to the surface are covered and can be seen by a lifeguard. There is overlapping coverage when more than one lifeguard is performing surveillance. Lifeguards have unobstructed views of their zones from each station. The size and shape of each zone allows lifeguards to respond quickly to victims in the water. Lifeguards should be able to recognize and reach a victim in their zone within 30 seconds. Lifeguards should be able to recognize an emergency, get to a victim, extricate, and start giving ventilations within 1.5 to 2 minutes. Regular zone tests are conducted to ensure recognition and response times are achievable in each zone. The phrase zone coverage means that the swimming area is divided into separate zones with at least one lifeguard assigned to each zone. When providing zone coverage, you need to be aware of the zone boundaries for each guard's position. These zones will usually overlap to provide double coverage at the boundary areas. If an emergency occurs in an overlapping area, both you and the lifeguard of the adjoining zone are responsible. Whoever notices the emergency first should activate the EAP. When assigned total coverage, you will be the only lifeguard conducting patron surveillance while on duty. Some facilities, such as a small pool, assign their lifeguards total coverage. When only one lifeguard is conducting patron surveillance, that lifeguard has to scan the entire area, control the activities of patrons in and out of the water, and recognize and respond to emergencies. If adequate coverage cannot be provided for all patrons, inform a supervisor that help is needed. If a lifeguard must enter the water for a rescue in a multiple lifeguard facility, the remaining lifeguards must now supervise a larger area. They might need to move or stand up at their stations to improve their view. Meanwhile, the other lifeguards monitor the rescue and provide support as required by their emergency action plan. Alternatively, the emergency action plan may require lifeguards who are not on patron surveillance duty to take the rescuing lifeguard's place at the vacant lifeguard station. Lifeguards are responsible for performing effective surveillance from a variety of positions, including ground-level stations, elevated stations, floating stations, and roving stations. If you work from a ground-level station, you'll likely be assigned to a certain location on deck or in shallow water. These kinds of stations are often found in shallow water play areas, at the ends of slides, and around winding rivers. Ground-level stations are closer to patrons, which can make communicating with patrons easier. When at a ground-level station, make sure to keep your focus on surveillance and do not become distracted. Working from an elevated station will usually give you a broad view of your zone and will help minimize the effects of glare. An elevated station can also be a benefit when you're responsible for providing total coverage. When using this type of station, make sure you know how to safely exit the stand when responding to an emergency or doing a rotation. Be aware that elevated stations can create surveillance blind spots near and directly under the stand. Don't overlook these areas. Be certain to scan under, directly around, and in front of the stand as part of your routine surveillance strategy. A lifeguard in a roving station provides walking surveillance coverage at ground level, while a guard at an elevated station provides coverage for the same zone at the same time. This extra coverage ensures thorough surveillance when facilities are particularly crowded. Because roving guards are mobile, they're able to scan while positioning themselves within the zone where the need is greatest. Roving stations are also helpful when providing total coverage, as walking not only keeps the lifeguard more alert, but also helps provide multiple vantage points from which to scan the water. Floating stations are usually used as extra coverage to patrol the outer edge of a waterfront swimming area. Floating stations include rescue boards, kayaks, and other watercraft. Facilities with floating stations should provide the necessary training for their use. During a typical workday, you will likely complete several rotations. Rotations are when lifeguards rotate from one station to another. Rotations help you stay alert and fight fatigue and monotony. No matter what kind of station you're working in, your rotation into or out of a station must be done with uninterrupted surveillance of that zone. At ground-level stations, this is done by beginning to search the entire zone as you walk to the station, so that you are aware of the activity level in the zone you will be guarding. When you arrive, stand to the side of the outbound lifeguard. Without losing surveillance of the zone, exchange any details that could be important to your effective coverage of that zone before confirming that you own the zone. Following this information exchange, confirm and signal that the zone is clear and transfer responsibility for the zone. The outbound lifeguard then continues their scan of the zone as they are walking away from the station. The procedure for rotating into and out of elevated stations is similar to that of ground-level stations. But it's also slightly different because of the need to climb up to and down from the station. Begin scanning as you walk towards the station. When you arrive, stand to the side of the station while you continue scanning the zone. After a few moments of scanning, tell the other lifeguard that you have the zone covered and that they can climb down. Once the outbound lifeguard is on deck, they position themselves on the other side of the station and resume their scan of the zone. Verbally confirm that they are actively scanning, then climb up into the station, make any necessary adjustments, and resume your scanning of the zone. Exchange any important information as needed without losing surveillance of the zone. Following this information exchange, confirm and signal that the zone is clear and transfer responsibility for the zone. The outbound lifeguard will continue their scan as they rotate to the next station.